I am not a knee-jerk anti-cop individual. I recognize that people are people and there's good people and there's bad people. And as a sane human being, I can easily point out the great encounters I've had with police who have really helped me out, as well as the really bad ones, because that's the way life is. Sometimes people have a bad encounter and it becomes their entire world. They say this one bad encounter is all of the police. That's not fair and that's not true. I was once walking through Chicago. I had a guy try to mug me. Out of nowhere, some cops popped out of the shadows. It was the craziest thing. Grabbed the dude, saved me. I don't know if the guy was actually going to mug me because I didn't have any money or anything, and I didn't care. I'm like, dude, what you got? I had nothing on me. But these cops did save me from a mugging, and it was really crazy that I'd never experienced something like that before. I've had friends who have done things that were wrong, and the cops gave them a head shake, a wink wink, and said, kid, don't do this stuff ever again. And they've said, thank you. I've had cops that were really nice. I've also had really bad cops. Cops trying to plant drugs on me. Didn't work out. I've had cops falsely arrest me. So I get it, man. But I'll tell you what, right now we are really getting the worst of the worst with all of this news. And I want to make sure I make this clear. These are bad cops. In the videos we're seeing and the weird enforcement rules, the violations of the Constitution. But it's not every single cop. And that's the important thing. You'll see way too many videos where they're like, look at this cop arresting someone in violation of the Constitution. All cops are bad. No, dude, those ones are bad. And there are a lot of them, and we call them out. That's how we make it better. Look at this story from the New York Post. This one's actually kind of funny. NYPD cops probed for curse-laden megaphone rant caught on video. So this guy, you can barely see it. This guy over here is yelling at the cops. The cops are yelling back, cursing him out. This is not a coronavirus lockdown story for the most part, but it is kind of funny, so I want to point it out. This is unprofessional behavior, and I'm glad it kind of just ended there. Dude, these cops deserve a stern talking to. That's about it. Don't tell someone to go suck a fat one. That's what they did, and started cussing at him. That makes me laugh. I question the professionalism of these officers. For the time being, you get a warning for this. But there's some truly twisted stories. Check out this story from Reason. NYPD cops, some without masks, detain small boy for being alone on subway. His parents were in the next car. City officials have asked NYPD to reduce arrests since there's a global pandemic happening. The commissioner said he'd do no such thing. I can understand why the cops might, find a small boy and be like, well, we're going to detain you or whatever, where your parents. And if his kids are right there, they should have been with him, not sitting in the other car. It's just another story we're seeing. And again, this is not the worst. I'm going to show you how it gets bad. But we've seen the paddleboarding guy getting arrested for what? Paddleboarding by himself? We've seen the protesters in Raleigh, the one woman who got arrested because she was violating the executive decree of the governor. You can't do that. We have some good cops. We have some bad cops. But I'll tell you what, right now, the big thing that bothers me is the regular cops who are agreeing to enforce these BS laws like we saw in Raleigh. Now over in Michigan, amazingly, several sheriffs, I believe 4 different sheriffs, have refused to execute the decree of Governor Whitmer. They've said straight up, not going to do it because it's unconstitutional. We have seen sheriffs in Virginia with these new Second Amendment, restrictions saying, we're not going to enforce this. You can't make us do it. And I think it's interesting. That's typically the sheriffs who are like, no way, I'm not enforcing that law. That's amazing because those are good cops saying, I know what the rules are and I know what you can or can't do. It's freaky to me when you see these lockdown videos, when you see protesters being arrested, when you see the executive decree, or I'm sorry, in Raleigh, when they tweeted, protesting is a non-essential activity. Let me tell you what you get, which brings me to the big stories. First, major crime is up 12% in New York City despite coronavirus outbreak. No. You mean because cops are getting sick. This is what's worrying to me. Why is it that we're going to see these videos of a cop pulling up in a car and cussing somebody out, but crime is up? I'm not going to sit here and tolerate cops who want to go arrest some kid in a subway cart when people in New York are being beaten and robbed and major crimes are up and commercial burglaries are up. Look, isolated. You got a kid in a subway cart. The cops come up and detain him. And I say, hey, that makes sense. The kid should have been by himself. Where are his parents? He's a little young to be on a subway by himself. Detaining maybe a little strong. Maybe they could have said, hey, where's your parents? Turns out they were in the next car over. Why are we hearing a story? Let me show you the photo because this next one you're not going to like. Why do we have all of these cops coming up to this kid and detaining him? Why? What's the problem? Now I'll show you the real news. A New York City nurse who beat the coronavirus is attacked and robbed on her way to work by a group of 15 thugs in New York City. Martha Toscano, 60, was assaulted as she made her way to the Bellevue Hospital. She said she feared the thugs were going to kill me in the vicious attack. Police have arrested 3 of the alleged suspects, including 2 teenage girls. All right. I'm glad the police were able to arrest these people, some of them. But how do we get to a point where, look, cops are sick. I get it. There's a breakdown. But they're gonna do these things like cussing people out. They're going to detain kids. And then this kind of stuff happens. I'm not an idiot. I understand cops aren't everywhere all the time. And that's kind of the point, that you have to be responsible for yourself within reason. But I don't think it makes sense for them to do these arbitrary enforcement type things. And I want to stress too, these issues are happening outside of New York. We're seeing a lot of these stories outside of New York. Raleigh is not NYPD. But it's like a frequent thing we've seen. And I feel like what we're seeing right now is the worst possible outcome. Low quality enforcement of arbitrary and nonsensical rules, and ignoring more harsh crimes. You've got police in Philly. That's the area I'm in, and many other big cities saying they're not going to enforce, they're not going to arrest people for certain crimes. Are you kidding me? It's like the worst possible outcome. You know, it really brings out the libertarian in me when I'm questioning the government institution that is not going to arrest criminals and is going to hassle people for no reason. And I've seen this stuff. Activists have complained about this stuff all the time. But when you get a nurse who's getting beaten and robbed, you kind of want to know what the priorities of the department's going to be. My sympathy to those who are sick, but come on, can we do better? I don't know, man. Maybe it's naive of me. Maybe I'm making assumptions about what the cops can and can't do, but I don't know. Welcome to New York. A nurse who beat the coronavirus was attacked and robbed. She thought they were going to kill her. They hit her. These are nasty people. She wept as she told the Post how the attack happened just 3 days after she returned from work from beating COVID-19. She had been off for 2 weeks while she recovered from the virus. The vicious assault was interrupted only when 3 men driving down the street came to her rescue and screamed at the thugs to stop. She said, "Thank God these angels came, because nobody was in the street, nobody." The men helped the woman up and chased the muggers to retrieve her purse, to no avail. Toscano said she had been left with pain in all my body, including my back, my neck, bumps on my head, even on my elbows, and was taken to the hospital for her injuries. She returned home around 4 a.m. and was forced to call her landlord to get into her apartment because her keys, IDs, and credit cards were all in the purse swiped by her attackers. This kind of stuff makes me wonder about these far leftist protesters and why there's no real common ground between libertarian right and left, you know, to a greater degree. I understand for the most part, you'll probably find, a lot of overlap. But you look at these stories. I think it's easy to look at the NYPD and say, why are these cops in a squad car cussing out some guy in the street for no reason? Why are they detaining a kid in a subway? And then questioning why they weren't there for this woman. Well, I think it's fair to say the reality is they're not everywhere all at once. And if we only highlight the worst possible things, you don't see the story about the cop who helped the old lady cross the street because it's not newsworthy, and that makes sense. But my question then is, can we do something better for the visibility if that is the case? Or is there something we can do to make the department actually function better so the cops are more likely to be able to help a woman like this who's a nurse, for instance, and not waste their time on these kids? I don't know. Maybe I'm being naive. Maybe the reality is they do waste their time. I'll tell you what, man. In my experience, my friends and me, and I'm sure many of you have realized, it's easier for a lot of cops to enforce low-grade things. I've been the victim of, false arrests before, because it's easier for a cop to come up to me knowing there's no real threat and just hassle me than it is to go and actually deal with a group of muggers who are beating a woman. That's a dangerous situation. I don't know how we solve these problems, and maybe we're just seeing the worst of it because we're paying attention now. Maybe this kind of stuff happens all the time. We've got to solve this problem. I don't know. But amid the coronavirus pandemic, there's a lot of really, really bad policing going on. It's not just the police. I get it. It's kind of the government in general. This is the greatest thing. I feel like in all of this, it should really bring out the inner libertarian of everybody. You're on the left. You got a problem with Donald Trump. Don't trust the government to solve your problems. You're on the left. You got a problem with cops. Don't trust the government to solve all of your problems. And then for the libertarian right, they're already agreeing you shouldn't let the government solve all your problems. So I think, as this gets worse and we experience more hardship and people are focusing less on sports and video games and movies, they're going to be more prone to seeing this stuff. They're going to be angrier when these stories come out. It might actually make for an actual solution to the problem. The light at the end of the tunnel, I guess, with all of this is that as more of these stories come out, I guess you'll get more people asking the question, why couldn't the cops be the deceiver? And then maybe not an indictment of the police, maybe an indictment of these laws stopping you from being able to arm yourself. Maybe the issue is it's not the police fault, the cops' fault that couldn't be there. It's the fault of the government for restricting this woman's right to self-protection. Maybe many people will start to realize that you have to be more responsible for yourself. And as people are paying attention less and less to entertainment, they might take the responsibility. They might actually realize as they focus on these stories just how bad things can get if they don't wake up and solve these problems. Or it could get worse and the stories could make people angrier and angrier and result in major protests and riots in the middle of a pandemic. I honestly don't know, man. But let me wrap this up. I don't often do a rant on police, you know what I mean? Because for the most part, it'd be like doing a rant on the fire department. I get that there are issues with police accountability, 100%, and they need to be called out. So let this be like my pent-up frustration with seeing all these stories and just trying to ask the question, like, why can't we do better? Maybe we can't. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not possible. No. I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. I'll see you next time.